Hello, Jenny. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
For everyone who does not know Jenny, Jenny has a degree in psychology. She has decades of experience as a business consultant, executive coach, trainer, and mentor. And she has been around the coaching industry for a long, long time. May I say, even before the internet was here with us. Jenny, again, very grateful to have you with us. Tell us more about who you are, what you do.
So, I did my degree in psychology, but I never wanted to deal with crazy people. I always wanted to actually use that to go into the business world and make a difference there. So, I started out as a marketing consultant early on, and I started my own business pretty early on. And I quickly discovered that if you put a bunch of leads in the front end of a business and they haven't actually got their systems in order, then they either don't close the sales, or they close the sales but they mess up the delivery, or they even deliver the product and fail to collect the money from the client. And so in order for me to actually get like the great results that my clients would be happy with and give me testimonials, I ended up finding I was actually doing like a business consulting role of helping them to get all of their processes in order so that they could handle the extra business. So that's what got me from just pure marketing into business processes in general. And then I started coming across this really curious situation where the business owner would know that they needed to change something. They would know what the problem was. They would even know how to fix the problem, and then they wouldn't do it. And that just was really confusing for me, just starting out in the beginning years of my career. Like, how can that happen? It's a problem. You see how to fix it, but I just fix it. So that's what sent me down the path of learning about coaching. Like, how do you empower somebody to do something that they know they need to do and they're not doing? So that was back, at the turn of the millennium. That I actually really became really accomplished in coaching. It took me a few years to find the right training programs and the right tools to actually really get that going. But then from then on, I was always doing a mixture of the business consulting and the executive coaching. I worked a lot with family-run businesses and partnerships where the relationships between the people were very crucial to the success of the business, and people who were trying to get divorced without undoing the family business. Like, how do we get divorced and continue to work together? Or law partnerships that were separating, and the partners were going in different directions and taking half the staff each, and how do we manage that? So that was my background. There was a lot of consulting in these realms of complex relationship-driven businesses. And I did my share with the big ones and government departments and everything else. But the ones I was really interested in were the ones where it was about the people and the relationships. That went terrifically well while I was able to continue doing it. But what happened was I was a very, like, one of these high achiever, go people. I was always on the run, always busy, filled my life up with everything. And I eventually burned out. And I couldn't do anything at all for about a year, which was pretty scary. I was just lucky I had savings. Otherwise, I would have been on the street. But that's what made me start to look into the realm of individual motivation and psychology and sustainability. Why did I burn out? What was going on in there? And then how do I now get myself back in a position where I can be functional and work, achieve stuff without burning out again? And that's how I ended up going into the realm of emotional intelligence and mastering the physiology and neurology and the whole body system, how it all works together, so that you can actually have a sustainable way of achieving a lot, but without burning out.
Got it. A big thing, burning out for this high achiever, isn't it? A big one. And I feel like we're drawn to like doing more, being more, achieving more. And you somehow have this pressure, maybe from the society, that you have to just get somewhere faster. It's like a race. And if you're not there by 25, by 30, or by 40, then it's this association with failure. And that is very scary. So, what can we do so that our generations from now on will not suffer from the same sort of challenge issue?
The problem exists on two levels. As an individual, there's not much you can do about the structure of our culture. Right? As an individual, you need to just deal with what our culture has done to you, fix as much as you can within yourself, and figure out how to be sustainable in the culture that we're in. The bigger picture, for those who are in positions of influence, this is for you. But the bigger picture is the way we've structured our society is incompatible with the human body. It's incompatible with the human psyche. If you look at how we lived before agriculture and before we lived in cities, if you look at Indigenous tribes who are still living in the same kind of way, you have an environment where for every child under the age of 8 whose emotional system is still developing, you have 4 people with fully functional, developed emotional systems who can help them to regulate their emotions and calm down when they get upset. And as a result, children who grow up in these kinds of environments are much less stressed as adults because their emotional system has developed without being under stress. There's always been someone around. They've never had to deal with big, scary emotions on their own. But what we do in our culture, we completely reverse that. We have one adult looking after 2, 3, 4 kids in an individual family, or 6 kids in childcare, or 20 kids in school, right? There's absolutely no way that that one person, even if they were beautifully accomplished as an emotional regulator, that they just don't have the time and the space to give every single one of those children the amount of attention and co-regulation that they need. So we've built a system in which it's impossible to get to adulthood with a normal emotional system. What is average in our culture is an abnormal emotional system. We are, on average, abnormally anxious compared to people who've grown up in these extended family clans where the adults are always around. So structurally, as a culture, that's what needs to change. We need to reverse the trend of leaving kids to deal with their emotions on their own because there's no adults. That's not a problem that an individual can solve. That's a big one, Maria.
Very, very interesting, Jenny, perspective on this. But let me go back and ask you, how did you go out from your burnout experience, or was this what made you transition towards coaching? Tell us a bit more about that.
I was always coaching. I was just doing it in a very high adrenaline, high speed kind of corporate way. And what I had to do in order to come out of it, I had to get to a point where I recognized that was just doing that was basically going to kill me. It really had to get to that point because the feeling I had was that if I don't keep running really, really fast, I'm going to die. Like that was the underlying kind of anxiety behind everything. It took being unable to work, basically, and thinking, okay, well, if I keep doing this, I'm going to starve, I'm going to die, right? I don't know what else there is to do, but I have to do something else. And then I went on a search. And at this point, right, none of the stuff that's around now was available. There was nothing about burnout. You couldn't Google burnout. I didn't even know it was burnout. My GP told me I was depressed. I wasn't actually depressed. I actually had adrenaline resistance. That's what burnout actually is. It's like insulin resistance, but for adrenaline. So you have adrenaline in your bloodstream, but the receptors don't take it up. So it's like you don't have any. So if you want to answer an email, you basically have to press the fight or flight, panic, somebody's about to die button to get yourself to answer the email. So I had to figure out how to come out of that myself. And because my background was psychology, I went into why am I doing this to myself? And how do I heal this? I had some very lucky experiences that gave me some things that I had not got as a child. And then it was like dominoes falling. My whole system restructured itself. And I was like, what the heck just happened to me? And I had to go back to my textbooks to try to figure out what it was. So I basically developed a whole new understanding of like developmental psychology and neurology and how they fit together in order to understand what was happening to myself as I healed. And later on, we've had people like Bessel van der Kolk, Peter Levine, and Pete Walker who've put books out that talk about the complex PTSD and childhood developmental trauma. And you've got Gabor Mate, and there's a whole lot of people now, there's a whole lot of information now that just did not exist when I was going through this. So I had to figure a bunch of stuff out on my own. And then I started telling other people about what I'd figured out, and it helped them as well. And that was when I realized I needed to start teaching this. I needed to start doing workshops. I needed to start coaching people through this because it just didn't exist. And I wished it had existed when I was looking for it. So I wanted it to exist when the next person would look for it.
In the end, the main motivation to go into this, coaching in the sense of you helping others to deal with what you've been through is actually your past experience with burning out that really pushed you to transition towards this coaching on a personal level, if I may call it like this.
Yeah. I mean, I still don't have a really good name for what I do. I call it emotional intelligence coaching. It's a lot more than just what Daniel Goleman put in his book, because it's about the neurology and the physiology and everything as well. So I still don't really have a name for it.
Got it. So then tell us a bit more, in detail, what is it exactly that you're doing now about this?
I would say if you look at the people that I'm helping generally, what is happening for most people is either they themselves are aware that there's something going on emotionally. I have too much anxiety, I can't sleep, or the ups and downs of my relationship affect me so intensely that I can't work, or else they're having like interpersonal conflict. So it's like other people are telling me that I don't manage my emotions. I don't think I have a problem with the way I manage my emotions. I'm just a calm person. I don't have very strong emotions. And then my wife is telling me that I'm suppressing things. I don't think I'm suppressing things, but she's going to leave me if I don't find something. So help me find something. Like I get those people. And then I get the people who are like, I'm just too much. I'm too much for everybody. My emotions are too intense, So both ends of the spectrum cause problems for people. And so what we do, I've got a team of people now that I've trained to do what I do. So what we do is we take people through a structured process, and we treat these things like skills. It's like riding a bicycle. Once you've learned how to ride a bicycle, you don't even have to think about it. That's what these emotional skills should be like. But if you haven't learned them as a child and you have to learn them as an adult, it's kind of like learning a physical skill, like riding a bicycle as an adult. You have to like think about it and practice it a lot until it becomes a habit. The coaching that we do is mainly encouraging people to practice and continue practicing these skills, practicing making your emotions quieter or louder, like making them less intense or more intense so that you can actually know what they are, or focusing. If you find that you tend to zone out in difficult situations, someone's yelling at you and you just don't even process what they're saying, to be able to focus. And then to get in touch with what's happening in your system, what's happening in your body, what's happening in your emotional world, to be able to really detect it, to name it, all of those kinds of skills. And then if you have a repeating pattern that you're doing to cope with an emotion, and we often don't even know that we're doing it to cope with an emotion. Like we're just like, I overeat. Like I go to the fridge 3 times in the evening. It may not even be obvious to people that's an emotional issue. But for most people, there's an emotion that goes on that has them want to go to the fridge. There's an emotion that goes on that has them want to scroll Facebook instead of whatever work they had planned to do. So when you have identified that you have a repeating pattern, whatever it is, we look underneath it and go, okay, what's the source? And then we have an actual technique you can practice that will release that underlying emotion from your system. We'll unhook it and allow it to move. And then once you've done that, compulsion just doesn't have the same hold over you anymore. So you may still out of habit think about going to the fridge in the evening, but you have no problem ignoring that thought. And then we teach people how to really get in touch with their subconscious using the language of symbols, which is what will allow the conscious mind and the subconscious mind to communicate with each other, because the subconscious mind doesn't have language and the conscious mind has such a narrow bandwidth, it will never understand what's going on in the subconscious. So to get them talking to each other, we use a language of symbols. And it's the basis for parts therapy, a lot of NLP procedures, a whole lot of other techniques. It's not a new thing. Shamans have been doing this for millennia. But what we do is we teach people the principles of it and how it works, and a couple of examples, and how to develop their own personal language to communicate with their subconscious in the symbols that mean the most to them. Once they've mastered those tools, like riding a bicycle, then they can pretty much navigate the whole of life, even incredibly intense and demanding situations, without feeling overwhelmed or having to go into any kind of coping strategy. One of my trainees in my current program, the group of coaches who are currently in training, is from Ukraine. And we were a few weeks into the program when the war started in Ukraine. And so she's been like on the phone to her family who are in bunkers with bombs dropping, organizing truckloads of supplies to be driven across to Ukraine. And she said to me, like, I'm so lucky I'm in this program right now. So lucky that I've got these tools and I'm practicing them every day, because she said I would have been on adrenaline, 100% on adrenaline, burned out already. But I'm just calm. Like every time the adrenaline starts to rise, I automatically just do one of the first aid techniques and it goes away. And that's the difference it makes when these skills are embedded in. Can handle very intense things and still remain calm.
And we don't have to do everything ourselves. We cannot possibly know the answers for everything. So why not try to find that support to guide us through, because it's honestly life-changing. But if I were to summarize what you said, so first, being aware, and second, creating those habits to make the change that you wish. Tell me if I got it right.
It's actually the other way around.
Oh, so wow.
We build the habits of regulating the emotions, and that's what allows us to become aware. Because if you can't manage an emotion, your subconscious won't let you become aware of it. It'll only let you become aware of things that it's confident you can manage. So actually the regulation is the first step, and then the awareness. And once you have the ability to regulate and you have the expanded awareness, then you can go to work working on your system, communicating between the conscious and the subconscious.
It really makes sense that it's the other way around, because first you have to get to that level where you are able to process your emotions, to understand them. That is awesome. Now that we have this sort of background and we understand what we're talking about, where are we coming from? So, from what I can tell, you were a coach before the internet existed. What has been the impact of the internet on the coaching industry now that you've been for so long around?
That's a good question. The internet revolutionized everything. Back when I first started coaching, like all coaching was done face-to-face, in person. It was expensive and high ticket, and it was something that the average person would never have a coach. Like tennis pros would have a coach, business leaders would have a coach, but an ordinary person with a regular job, they would never have a coach. What has happened over the time as the internet unfolded? For a long time, the internet had almost no impact on coaching. Like all through the 90s, as the internet was coming into existence, like coaches would not have even known about it. They would have still been able to continue doing business completely on a paper. But at some point there was a shift. Because I started in marketing, I've been watching what's happening when the internet first started out and people started selling things on the internet. The people who were on the internet in the beginning were techie guys, right? They understood the technology of the internet. They understood computers. They had not studied marketing. So it was all very unsophisticated at first. And there was this burst of enthusiasm for online business when all of these techie guys suddenly discovered the marketing principles that were written in the classic books in like the 1930s about how to do copywriting, about finding a target audience, about niches, finding a niche, right? Oh, niches, this amazing idea. Pay me like $400 and I will tell you what a niche is. And like me, who's been in marketing since forever, is like, okay, but they were so excited, right? And then suddenly all the marketers online they were now picking a niche, they were picking a product, they were having a message, they had the 7 Ps, they were using actual marketing principles. But the internet continues to grow, it gets more competitive. Now everybody's using marketing principles. So it became a little more difficult to just sell whatever you want on the internet. So the ones who are really into the internet marketing, they started selling how to make money online products on the internet. So the ones who were like really into this and really good at marketing, most of them were marketing how to market things on the internet, like business in a box, right? How to start a business online, how to have an eBay business online, how to have an Amazon business online, how to have a drop shipping business online, how to have an affiliate business online, right? So that worked for a little while, but then everybody got wise to the fact that most of the people who are selling how to make money online products haven't actually made money online themselves yet. So there was a whole burst of cynicism, and that whole area became less profitable. And the online marketers started casting about for what is the next thing that we can package up as, here's your make money online business in a box. And about 7 or 8 years ago, not sure exactly when, they landed on coaching. If somebody wants to make money online, right, you don't need any kind of qualification or certification to be a coach. You just need to know how to do something. So let's just tell people that you can be a coach. You can be a coach online and make $10,000 a month from your coaching business. Instead of saying, well, you can make $10,000 a month as an affiliate marketer, or you can make $10,000 a month on eBay, we'll tell them you can make $10,000 a month as an online coach. And then they'll pay us $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 to explain to them how to do that. And that is what has brought us to where we are today with the online coaching industry in the situation that is in today, and all the problems that we're now facing today.
Wow. Could you tell us what are those challenges that people face when they start as a coach today, or any issues, problems, misunderstandings that exist nowadays in the coaching industry?
Well, I think one of the biggest issues that people don't know until they start is that you get into business because you want to coach people, you want to help people, you want to be talking to people, maybe not in person now, maybe it's on Zoom, but you want to be talking to real people and helping real people with their problems. So you go online, you throw up a website and you go, I coach people in this. And then nothing happens, right? You haven't got anyone to coach. And this is the piece they don't tell you right up front, right? That before you coach anybody, you're going to have to learn how to market. You're going to have to go and find those prospective customers wherever they are, and you're going to have to get their attention, and you're going to have to get them interested in coaching because they probably have not even thought about having a coach. You'll have to give them enough information that they actually start to really want to coach. And then you need to get them to talk to you so that you can get them to actually engage you as a coach rather than somebody else. And usually when people go into coaching, they don't know how to do any of those things. They don't know how to build a website. They don't know how to set up an Instagram account. They don't know how to set up a Facebook page or a Facebook group. They don't know how to do any of the things they're going to need to do to be able to find those clients, take them through the process of becoming a client. So it's a big waste of human potential, I would have to say, in the coaching industry, because there's these brilliant coaches, these empathic, committed, highly skilled coaches who can do amazing things and change people's lives, but nobody knows they exist. And they are either starving or they're working a day job that's not what they want to do, and hoping that the time that they can put in nights and weekends will eventually turn their coaching business into a full-time income. And that, for me, that's the biggest hurdle. I would say 70% of people who want to be a coach, who start down the path of being a coach, maybe even pay for a certification to be a coach, or pay for one of these how to become a coach in 90 days packages. They pay $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 to somebody. It's about 70% of those people never get over the first hurdle. They never get enough clients to actually make it a full-time steady source of income. And to me, that's just tragic. That should not be happening. But then you've got the ones who do figure out how to market themselves. And then there's a whole different set of problems, because you figure out how to market yourself and then you get some clients and then you get busy looking after those clients and you don't have the time to keep up with the marketing. But then those clients finish their package and now you've got no clients. Now you have to start marketing again, and you've lost all your momentum with the marketing because you haven't done much for the last couple of months while you've been looking after these clients. And you have this feast and famine kind of roller coaster thing that goes on. And if you get past that, you figure out how to keep a marketing system going so that there's a steady flow of clients coming in and you get your income up and you're making $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month in revenue, right? That's not money you can put in your pocket. You have expenses. You have to put a lot of hours in that you don't get paid for, like in the marketing, in the administration and the taxes and everything else. So even though it looks good on paper that you might be making $10,000 a month, you might actually only be putting $2,000 or $3,000 in your pocket. And even if you get beyond that and you're actually putting $10,000 in your pocket, maybe your revenue's $40,000, $50,000 a month and you're putting $10,000 in your pocket. The people who are coming in, they want you. You have been marketing yourself, right? So they've seen you on social media. They've seen your posts. They've seen your videos. They've seen your name, and they want to be coached by you. So your calendar fills up and that's it. Like, you can't take any more clients. So the only option then, and this is what all the business coaches will tell you, is you raise your prices. Right? Your calendar's full, just raise your prices, then you'll earn more money, which makes sense as an individual, right? If I'm going to spend a certain number of hours per week coaching, I want as much per hour as possible for those hours of coaching that I can do. So you double the price of your program, you triple the price of your program, you keep finding people to do your program, you raise your income up. So the people who are really good at marketing end up very quickly charging very high prices. So now if you're a client, if you're a prospective client and you're on the internet, right, and you may even have some idea that maybe a coach would be a good idea. Like, I know that I've just got divorced. I have not been in the dating game for 30 years. I need help. I know there are dating coaches, right? Let me just go Google and the ones you'll see are the ones that are good at marketing themselves. And they're the ones who are charging $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for their program because they can, because everybody wants to work with them because their face is everywhere. What you won't find is Mary Jones, who's been a social worker and has decided to go into coaching and trying to keep families together instead of dealing with the broken mess afterwards, who's sitting in her living room with all of her skills, a terrible looking website and no social media presence. Right? Mary might actually coach you better than the celebrity relationship coach whose photoshopped pictures are on beaches with gloriously attractive members of the opposite sex, right? Mary would probably do a better job, and she would do it for like $500 instead of $5,000. But you're never going to find Mary. You're never going to know she exists. So if you can't afford the $5,000, you're just not going to have a coach. And this is the other tragic waste of our entire industry, right? That you've got the waste of potential of all the good coaches who aren't getting the clients that they deserve. And you've got all of these clients who can't afford the really expensive coaches and can't find the lower priced coaches who just don't get their lives transformed. These people with money who want to pay for coaching and these coaches who would happily take that money and coach them, and they just never meet.
Would you then say these are structural problems in the coaching industry?
Yeah, it's a problem with the way that it's structured at the moment. And the core problem here is that we have taken the business model from the internet marketing, make money online guys. And that model is you are one person and you set up your business as a solopreneur and you do everything until you can afford to outsource or hire people to do some of the pieces of it for you. And that is the model that's being taught to coaches, because that is the only way of starting a business that these guys knew when they pivoted from make money on eBay to make money as a coach. They took models that were working in other industries, actually were starting to slow down and not work so well in other industries, and they put those models onto the coaching industry. But coaching is just not that kind of industry. People who become coaches are not the kind of person generally who's comfortable with those cold DM messages, with making heaps and heaps of videos of themselves and putting them over social media, with being a speaker. Or there's a percentage of people who are, but a lot of people who are brilliant coaches are not comfortable with those ways of promoting yourself and those ways of finding clients. So we've got a structural problem where the people who are good at those things quickly get way too expensive for the average consumer. And the people who aren't good at those things are invisible and eventually drop out of the industry or only ever work part-time in it because they can't get enough clients.
Do I sense that since you understand these issues so well and you have them so structured in your mind that you already thought of a way to make this better, to solve this sort of issue? Are you trying to tackle and change the coaching industry?
I started out just trying to do this for like a few of my friends who were really great coaches and were really struggling to get clients. And I thought, well, look, I started out in marketing. I actually do understand this marketing stuff. It's not my passion, but I can do it. So why don't I set up a structure where I can market, bring in clients, they can do the thing that I'm telling everyone about in the marketing. I'll train them how to do it. And then they don't need to worry about marketing. I'll just give them clients. Everybody's happy. We'll share the revenue. And I've been doing that for a couple of years. We had the program down. It was getting great results for clients. I'd started to go, okay, now is a time when I need to scale the marketing and sales operations now, because we know it's good. We can just fill the programs and fill the coaches' calendars. And at that point, I started to see what was going on across the board, because I was out there, I was looking for the sales consultants, the marketing, the appointment setters, all of those things. And I started to see that the same problems that were happening for the coaches were also happening for high ticket salespeople and for appointment setters and for people who did Facebook ads and all these other types of ways of bringing in clients. And I was beginning to wonder whether anything worked anywhere when I came across some posts from a man called Brian Campbell. And most people listening to this probably won't know Brian Campbell's name because he'd been retired for a while. He was one of the early internet marketing gurus, first man to make $1 million on Facebook, selling things on Facebook back in the day. And he'd been retired. And apparently a friend of his had leaned on him to come out of retirement and do something. So he'd become visible again. And he was making some posts. I started following him. And I joined his mastermind because he was talking about cooperation in a way that I hadn't heard any of these internet marketing guys do. And it turns out in his break, he's been a monk for a few years and the whole mindset change, right? So he was talking about the same values that I had in my business. And I joined his mastermind, hoping that all of the people in his mastermind would also share these values and I'd be able to find the right people to build the system to feed all of my coaches. And I got talking to Brian and Graham, who he was partnering with. And when I started to talk to them about this structural problem I saw in the coaching industry, they were like, oh my God, we were trying to solve a problem this big, and you've just pointed out a problem that's like 1,000 times bigger than that. Like, we have to fix this. And so over the period of about a month, we got together like all of the smartest minds that we all knew, the three of us, to come up with a solution that was actually going to make the difference for this structurally for the whole community. It's in pre-launch right now. We're about to launch, but there's a lot of people in it already, all the people who've been helping to develop it. A community that is dedicated to being the business backbone for everybody who needs a business backbone. So if you're a coach and you just want to coach, in this community, you'll find the people who will market whatever it is that you coach for you, and you just share the revenue. If you're somebody who's really good at putting together podcasts and you're looking for coaches to be your client, right? The problem that you have is that to set up a podcast takes so much time and effort that you have to charge a fair bit of money for it. If you're going to launch a podcast for somebody and get them viewers and everything else, it's going to take a bit of time. So somebody who's just starting out as a coach, they're not going to be able to have a podcast in the beginning. But if you get a group of 10 coaches who are all coaching around the same kind of area, and you all get together and start one podcast, you've now got 10 people bringing in the audience. You've got 10 people doing the interviews. So you only have to do an interview once every couple of months. You can really put your whole heart into that. It's going to be a much higher quality episode for that podcast if it's the only one you did in a 2-month period. So the whole thing becomes better. It's better for the listeners. It's better for the coaches. It's better for the people that they're featuring, the experts that they're featuring, if everybody works together. And so that is what we are doing now as a community.
This is awesome. I'm just wondering, so how is this community any different than what's going on already, let's say, in the Facebook community?
If you're, say, an anxiety coach and you get approached, you get a comment in a group or a direct message from a marketing coach, they're generally going to ask you to give them a couple of $1,000s up front. But what we're doing in our community is actual partnerships. So somebody who's good at marketing will say, well, I'm actually really confident in my ability to market. I'm confident in what I do. So I will build the funnel for you that brings the clients in. If I'm a failure at the front end and no clients come in, then neither of us makes any money. If I bring a bunch of clients in and then you make a mess of it and they all ask for refunds, then neither of us makes any money. But if we work this together, if we're both good at what we do and we both do our part of it, we both make plenty of money.
Got it. This is indeed a different approach. What else is different about this community?
There's 2 promises for everyone who's in the community, right? The first promise is if you do business with anyone else in the community, you do them a good deal. You do a better deal for them than you would do for an outsider. And we encourage people to add extra value rather than discounting, because people will remember the extra thing you gave them when they don't remember whether they paid $1,500 or $1,350 for something. And the other promise is when the community is promoting something, everybody in the community promises to support that in whatever way works for them. So you have a community. In pre-launch, we've got 40 something people now who've been putting this together. We're about to launch. We're going to have 100, 200 people in this community. So when the community goes to launch something, there's 100, 200 people who will do what they can. And for some people, that is, I'm grabbing an affiliate link, I'm writing posts, I'm sending this out to my email list that's got 3,000 people on it. I know 4 other people who've got email lists. I'm going to go to them. I'm going to get them to send my email out to their list as well. There's those people, marketing people who love it. They'll do heaps. But then there's the other people who will be like, I'll put this on my Facebook wall. Everybody does what they're moved to do to support it. But between 100, 200 people, that's a lot of lift. If you were going to launch anything, if you're going to launch a new podcast, if you were going to launch a new product, if you were going to launch a new service, having that many people doing whatever they can do to get the word out, you're going to have a way better launch than if you, as the solopreneur and 3 of your friends, try to do the same thing.
Got it. So that's a great way to incentivize everyone to take action in the benefit of the others. So that is awesome. And about those official partnerships, they work on the same system, or is it a different way when I decide to work with the marketeer to help me grow? Is it based on the same sort of system, or it's a different deal, a different contract going on, and a different way to split the revenue?
Everybody is free to make whatever agreements they want to make within the community. The only thing is it has to be a good deal. It has to be a good deal for both people, right? No exploitation, no taking advantage of people. Nobody's locked into anything in this community. It's a month by month thing. If you're getting value, you stay. If you're not, you leave. There's a whole heap of free training that's available in the community. Like all of the experts basically are doing trainings to show their expertise so that you will partner with them or engage their services. So there's a massive training library that's already building up inside the private community of all of these experts giving demonstrations of the best of what they can do. And so if you're coming in new to the industry and you're like, I don't even know which parts of the business I actually want to do, I don't even know enough to know whether I like writing content or not, then you can actually study from the experts in the field exactly how they do it. You can even send them a message. You can have a chat with them. You can hop on a Zoom with them and ask them questions as part of the community. And they will do that because they want you to know who they are. Because if you decide that's a part of the business that you don't want to do, who are you going to go to do it for you? You're going to go to the person you learned from. So it's to everybody's benefit for all of the experts to share their expertise as much as they can. And it's in everyone's interest for the people who are new to business or who are new to coaching to soak up as much expertise as they can when they first come in.
Got it. And is there any sort of quality check that you as community founders are doing, whether it's those contracts to make sure everything is fair or the quality of the people who are in? How do you select the people? Can you tell us more about that?
So far, everyone who's come in has come in from personal recommendation. They've personally known someone who was in the community already, so that no one's going to invite someone in that they know is going to cause a problem. When we get to the wider launch and it goes more public, there will be people coming in that nobody personally knows. And then it will be a case of that person needs to get to know people. People need to engage with them in the trainings and engage with them in the community to see what they're doing, to get to know them as a person. And if somebody is not in alignment with the values of the community, if somebody is coming in to take, there are people who do that. They'll go into a community like this and they go, oh, look at these hippies, all lovey-dovey, let's share. I'm just going to take everybody's free stuff and copy their trainings and make my... When we get... And people like that will come, right? When we get people like that, they will be spotted sooner or later, most likely sooner, because everyone's engaging with everyone else. Whenever the problematic stuff comes up, they'll be asked to either live up to our community standards or leave, because one rotten apple can completely spoil it for everybody. The idea is that if a product is actually being promoted by the community, so it's on the community's platform, you can get an ambassador link and you can represent the product, then it has been vetted by the senior members of the community with the business experience and the marketing experience, and that the person who's created it, who's going to deliver it, has been vetted, the product has been vetted. It's pretty hard for the takers to hide in that kind of environment.
Got it. It's indeed a very interesting way to tackle a very big problem. So in short, you're bringing together people with different needs to be able to support each other and really create that sort of synergy, right? For those who are interested in this community, Jenny, how can they find you? What is the name? How can they be part of it? Can they even be part of it if they're not recommended?
So you can apply. We have, the website is, the community is called CrowdScale. So like crowdfunding, but CrowdScale. CrowdScale.org. So you can go on there, whether we personally know you or not. You can apply to join. You come in, you introduce yourself, you show people what you can do. And as long as you're in keeping the promises and you're in keeping with the ideals of the community and you're doing your part as a community member, you will be welcome to stay. And we hope that you do make friends with people who are in the community and really feel about it the way we all feel about it, have been putting it together from the start.
Got it. That is great news for everyone who is interested. I cannot wait to hear more about this and how it's going to work. Jenny, this has been great. Lots of insights. We moved from burnout to emotional intelligence to creating habits that help us to improve our lives to being aware of our own emotions. Then we switched into coaching industry. You gave us an overview of what happened along the years about some of the biggest challenges that we face as coaches, what the industry faces, the problems, the issues, and now you also came up with a solution to solve some of these big issues, which is incredible. I want to thank you very much for being with us today, for sharing all of these great insights with our listeners. And it was a pleasure to be here with you. For anyone who's interested, they can find Jenny on her Penside profile. So if you type Penside Jenny Hale, you can find her there. And from there, you can find her at Facebook or any other social platform that she decides to share. You can get in touch with her. Thank you once more, Jenny. Thank you all for listening. We're really happy you got the time to be with us today. And tune in for our next Penside episodes. And see you soon, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be releasing new ones every Wednesday. Make sure to subscribe and rate us 5 stars on your favourite podcast platform to give other people the chance to discover us too.